Hey everyone, I'm Megyn Kelly. Welcome to the Megyn Kelly Show. What a week. We made it to Friday, and the explosive trial of Donald Trump is officially off today, with the former president allowed to leave New York and attend the high school graduation of his son, Barron. There's a lot to get to, and I'm so happy to be joined today by the one and only Dan Bongino, host of the Dan Bongino Show. Don't miss a moment. Subscribe to this show on YouTube and follow me on Insta, Facebook, and X. Being in debt is like sinking in quicksand. You're trapped. You feel helpless. And the harder you struggle, the deeper in debt you can get. Been there. If you are trapped in debt, let me throw you a lifeline. Done with Debt. Done with Debt has created a new strategy with one goal in mind: to get you out of debt quickly and permanently. Done with Debt stands between you and your bill collectors. Then they negotiate a plan to end your debt permanently, without bankruptcy and without loans. They can get you out of debt quickly, and they can put more cash in your pocket monthly. But you do need to contact Done with Debt soon, because some debt solutions expire. It's super easy to get started. Just go to donewithdebt.com and get a free consultation. What do you have to lose? Talk with one of their experts about a strategy that will end your debt faster and easier than you thought possible. Visit donewithdebt.com. That's donewithdebt.com. Dan, so good to see you. Welcome back.
Oh, it's my favorite show. And listen, no crying today. Tom Hanks, there's no crying in baseball, but there's no crying on the Megyn Kellys. You got me 2 times. This is not going to be a 3-fer, all right?
So I don't know. I've got some really inspirational Kamala Harris sound bites for you. They might bring a tear.
That might draw a tear, Onion style, but you're the only one who seems to get me to consistently break out of my shell. You're such a great interviewer. That's why I like doing the show. It's like psychotherapy for me.
You're so sweet. I can't wait to get your take on so many things in the news. Let's start with the debate, and then I'll get to what happened with Michael Cohen late yesterday. But the debate, they're on. We've got 2 of them. Some saying, Trump should have negotiated more. Like maybe he shouldn't have said yes to CNN. We all know why. They hate him. My own take on it is you're never going to find an impartial moderator. It's going to be very hard if we have to go by the Joe Biden parameters, right? Because he said I'll only do it if we go with somebody who hosted a Democratic debate in 20 and a Republican debate in 16, which basically rules out Fox, right? They didn't do a Dem, and limits it all to places like CNN and ABC. But what do you make of the agreement to do at least 2?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because I was doing the radio show today, and some listener had made a comment on Facebook saying, hey, I think Donald Trump got played here, agreeing to these debates under their conditions. And listen, I'm telling you this objectively. I'm a Trump supporter. Everybody knows that. But I do have the ability, like a thinking human being, to pull myself out of the bubble, unlike leftists. He did not get played at all. He actually broke the news about the debate on my radio show 3 months ago, where that quote, anytime, anywhere, was from my show when we were doing an interview. So you got to think of it this way. Go to a strict business school analysis, do a SWOT analysis, right? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Obviously, this was a huge weakness for Donald Trump. The weakness being Biden wasn't going to debate, and he's got all the toys. Megyn, you can't make the guy debate. I mean, what are you going to do? Walk in the White House and drag him out at gunpoint, say, debate me? I mean, poke him with a stick? If he doesn't want to debate, he's not going to debate. That was a weakness for Trump, because obviously at this point, Trump is a superior debater. And here's the thing. Even if you thought 2020, the debates were a push or Biden won, Biden is now worse cognitively than he was 4 years ago. Nobody disputes that. And secondly, Biden now has a record to run on, unlike in 2020, which, let's be candid, is objectively disastrous. He's not the same guy. So just turning back to where I started, so the weakness for Trump was they can't make the guy debate. So Trump did the smart thing. He said anytime, any place, anywhere, knowing that the lack of conditions would give Biden no vehicle off that highway. Biden couldn't say, well, I would do it, but Trump said this. No, he said nothing. He said anytime, any place, anywhere. So when you say that, he had to stick by it, but it was the only way to lure him into the bullfighter ring. I think it was a genius move. I don't think he got played at all. I think Biden got played. And you're right. He's not going to get a fair moderator or a fair outlet. Forget it. Just do it. Expose this guy to the world for who he is and move on.
It's amazing because I think Trump wins even in front of biased moderator because he'll just say, it's a fake news media. They hate me. Everybody knows that. And I think the people know right now that the media doesn't like Donald Trump. So he goes in there. It's understood. You're going to have moderators who are all voting for Joe Biden, not a single one who's going to be voting for Trump. We'll see how that plays, but Trump knows how to turn those things to his advantage. What do you make of the other conditions, like no audience, just in a TV studio? Trump, a natural performer, thrives on the energy of a crowd. Right. The moderators tend to hate that, or at least Chris Wallace did. I guess we know why. And the earliness of them, they're not very close like they normally would be to the November vote.
I want to go back to how you opened up, because all of the factors you just mentioned, these X factors in this debate, all work in Trump's favor. You opened up, you said all he has to do is show up. You're 100% correct at this point. Megyn, the debate is already over. It's actually a title of my show. The debate's over. The performance isn't. Okay? Is it? Let me ask you, is there any issue you're confused about the difference between Biden and Trump? The Megyn Kelly answer, because you follow us.
I want to see. The reason I'm going to tune in, and I think they're going to get great ratings, I want to see what Joe Biden can do. I want to see if he's going to fall down. I don't think he can do it. I know there's danger in like setting the expectations so low for him. They're all hoping that we do that. But I really wonder whether he can make it through a total of 4 hours, mano a mano.
You're making exactly the point I was trying to say. I gave the analogy on the show the other day. It's like a movie derived from a popular book. Like everybody knows what happened in The Hobbit, in the Lord of the Rings series. I mean, you read it in high school, okay? It's not like you went to the movies like, holy Moses, what's going to happen here? Like, everybody knew. Why did you go then? You went because you wanted to see how it acted out on screen. So that's the point I'm making about the debate. Nobody's there to hear, who's better on the board, or Trump or Biden? Really? Like, you really need a debate to understand that? You're there for exactly that. Is Biden going to wet himself? Is he going to fall off this? I mean, I don't want this to happen. I'm not looking for any. I'm just saying, like, the guy's obviously in horrendous condition. You can see it. They're hiding him. They've got a Praetorian guard walking him to Marine One, which I've never seen in my history in the Secret Service. In case he falls, he wears these hookah shoes with 72-inch soles so he can bounce around like he's on a less gravitational pull Mars or something. Nobody's watching for the issues. The debate is over. They're only watching the movie to see how it acts out on screen, and the visuals matter. You may have read the book, but a lot of movies are made from books and really suck. Some are fantastic. So we'll see how it acts out. But I think your opening statement said it all, in that it doesn't really matter. Trump just has to show up, look authoritative, look presidential, and it doesn't matter what he says. He's already better on the issues, and we're not going to change it. Yeah, exactly. And look alive, unlike Reverend Kane on the other side from Poltergeist. I mean, he looks like he's dying, so that's all he's got to do.
I'm excited. I'm thrilled it's happening. I do think, Trump, he's going to have some tough questions from these moderators, but he always did. I can speak to that myself, and he handles it just fine. I just want to see what the old man's going to do. I mean, I agree based on the State of the Union, he can get through 2 hours reading off of a script, but this is not scripted and anything could happen. And I'm sure if the moderators do their real job and be quiet and let the two argue, then it's on. Then we're really going to get a show, because we're going to see Trump.
Can I just say one thing about this too? I mean, no, listen, you were there, you've done these. I've never moderated a debate, but my humble opinion, nobody respects the media anyway. Nobody thinks the media is going to be fair to Trump. They don't need advice from me. They're doing fine on their own. But if it was me on stage, I wouldn't even answer the question asked. I would give the question asked maybe to, great, immigration, he's done terrible on it. Let me tell you something. I would just use that time. I would not even bother with the question, because it's going to be stupid. It's going to be like, you're a felon. And I would just go on a whole big rant about the police state and not even address the question at all, because the questions are going to be biased, and Biden's going to be full of crap. I mean, the guy embarrassed himself in 2020. Every single Trump hoax, every single one he put out there, the fine people hoax, the liquid bleach in the veins hoax, the Putin bounty on the Russian. Go back and look. Every single hoax Joe Biden put out there. So why should Donald Trump, pay attention to the moderator either? Just do your own thing. He's good at that. That's a great idea, because the moderator, after the first time, could say, you didn't answer the question. It was about immigration, sir. We'll get to that other subject later. But once you're on the third or the fourth time having to do that, you look dumb. It's like,
It's not your debate. I love that because CNN is like, RFKJ is like, I want in, and I think I meet the qualifications to make this debate. I'm going to have 15% national support. And I'm like, what qualifications? There was no debate. Suddenly the two candidates said, F you to the Commission on Presidential Debates. We're forming our own. Biden said, let's do it with one of these 4 networks. Trump said, fine. Next thing we knew, it was on CNN. CNN's not setting terms. No, it's who's following their terms. The two candidates are following the terms. So if they don't want RFKJ, he's not coming. Trump sent out a post the other day saying, Biden's afraid of RFKJ. I don't mind. I don't know why we'd have him because he's a junior and he's really not a serious contender here. But what do you think is going to happen with him? And is it important?
You know, it is. And I'm, again, I'll throw a piece of advice to the Trump team. They certainly don't need to hear, but I think it's valuable. I do this every day. Is all I think about is my own. I don't have a real job. My only job is thinking about politics all day, and I'm obsessed with it. I think Trump should come out and argue for RFK to be included for a couple of reasons. Number one, he won't be. Biden will never agree to it. Biden doesn't want to be humiliated from the left. And for all the bullshit everybody keeps saying about, oh, RFK could hurt he's not going to hurt Trump. Please stop, okay? The MAGA base is never going to vote for a guy named Kennedy. It's not going to happen. You might as well run as Obama. It is not going to happen. For every 1 vote he takes from Trump, he probably takes 2 or 3 votes from Biden. So he's not going to let Biden, their team, RFK in. So if the Trump team looks like they're taking the high road and says, listen, I disagree with this guy. He's obviously a leftist on the environment, abortion. He supports late-term abortion. But he has the right to speak out on stage too. He looks like the bigger soul in the whole debate. Biden looks like the buffoon who's afraid of his left flank, and it only makes him look worse. That's exactly what I would do if I was a Trump team.
Okay, let's switch to Michael Cohen, star witness of this Trump trial in New York. And late
that
Thursday,
word star's doing a lot of work in that sentence.
A lot of work. Although it came out, we talked about this on the show yesterday, it came out that in that $50,000 he paid to this group Redfinch to get some good polling for Donald Trump, what he really wanted was a hashtag Women for Michael Cohen website and Twitter account. And they kept putting out how hot he was and how he looked just like who was the famous actor? Oh, I can't remember. He's a pathetic man. That's what he wanted. A fake women espousing their adoration of him. Andy Garcia, that's who it was. Okay, here's what happened late Thursday. Trump's defense attorney really zeroed in on what was kind of the kill. I mean, it wasn't on a point that, it wasn't on a point that mattered, but it wasn't really a jugular moment as you saw the on-ramp. But the off-ramp, the defense lawyer did have Michael Cohen's jugular in his hand, and even Anderson Cooper saw it and talked about it. So it was a great moment for Team Trump. Here's what happened. Michael Cohen had said that he called Donald Trump's bodyguard and he asked to speak to Trump, and he did after he made the payment to Stormy Daniels. And then he told Trump all about it. Remember, Trump is denying that he knew about this. He says this is a Michael Cohen operation. And he says, no, that's a lie. I told Trump about it. I called his bodyguard, Keith Schiller, and he put me on the phone with Trump, and it happened in October before the election. It happened. So the lawyer for Trump gets up there and he sets the stage by saying, you had a series of harassing phone calls at or about this same time, right? Yes, I did. And it turned out that you found out who was behind it. It was a 14-year-old boy because he had forgotten to block the number on at least one of the calls, right? Right. And you threatened that you were going to go to the Secret Service about him, and he begged you not to, saying, I'm a 14-year-old boy. And you said, you better loop your parents in ASAP. Correct? Correct. It was within moments of that Cohen called Trump's bodyguard and spoke with him for a matter of minutes. It was just after 8 on October 24th, 2016. He said, Cohen did, this is a way of getting a hold of Trump because he knew that Keith Schiller, the bodyguard, would be with Trump. And Blanche, Trump's lawyer, cited text message records showing Cohen messaged the bodyguard at 7:48 p.m. about the harassing caller. Okay? This is a big phone call. We're supposed to be telling Trump, Stormy, paid her, we're good. Instead, he shows 7:48 p.m. that day, Cohen texted the bodyguard about his own problem, his 14-year-old tormentor. Okay? He says, Cohen texts Schiller, Who can I speak to about harassing calls to my cell in office? Blanche then cited phone records showing Schiller calling Cohen and leaving a voicemail at 8:01 p.m. following text message stating, call me at 8:02 p.m. Cohen then called Schiller's number. The conversation lasted 1 minute and 36 seconds, show the phone records. Todd Blanche said Cohen's claim that he was talking to Trump in that 1 minute and 36 seconds about the Daniels deal, quote, was a lie because you were actually talking to Mr. Schiller about getting harassing phone calls from a 14-year-old. Cohen, this is amazing, Dan. Part of it was about the phone calls, but I knew that Keith was with Mr. Trump at the time, and it was more than potentially just this. Potentially. It was more than potentially just this. I'm almost done. Blanche, his voice growing louder, was incredulous. This is from the Associated Press, was incredulous. You had enough time in that 1 minute and 36 seconds to update Mr. Schiller about all the problems you were having with this harassing phone call and also update President Trump on the status of the Stormy Daniels situation? Cohen responded, that was my belief. Based on the records he was able to review that he said had refreshed his memory. The answer was, quote, yes, I believe I was telling the truth.
Which is a very lawyerly answer.
I believe
Megyn,
I believe I was.
You and I have been immersed in the legal system. I am not an attorney. However, 15 years of my life spent around criminals and lawyers and courtrooms, federal and city and state. I'm not new to this. Let me just say first, by the way, Michael Cohen trying to get people to promote him looking like Andy Garcia. Like, I look like Cary Grant if he looks like Andy Garcia. Like, that's like the dumbest thing can you imagine paying people to, you look at him like Andy Garcia. Andy Garcia is an actually good looking guy. Michael Cohen is not. I say that's objectively
I'm thinking
true.
like, who else could maybe Chaz Palminteri? I don't know if you really wanted to stretch, but no, not Andy Garcia.
Chaz not that long ago.
He's a great guy.
Damn good looking guy. He's a great, that restaurant Chaz's in Manhattan is incredible. And let me tell you something, he don't look like Michael Cohen. But is this guy, right? Is this guy the most unlikable witness you've ever seen? That whole exchange with the 14-year-old, I took interest in because why he thinks the Secret Service would help him when he's not a protectee was just bizarre. I mean, when I talk about a narcissist. But second, as you know from reading through most of the case, this was just one of about five or six different episodes that Todd Blanche just eviscerated this guy's credibility on. I mean, Megyn, in court, one of the worst things that can happen to you is for you to have to debate yourself. When you're contradicted by your own voice, video or audio, you'll just watch the jurors. They're typically like, damn, that was good. So at one point, Cohen says something really simple. Oh, I never met Alvin Bragg. The prosecutor, of course. That's not a hard thing. You either met him or you didn't. It's not a marginal case. You didn't kind of meet him. And then they play Michael Cohen's own podcast where he's like, I sat for hours with Alvin Bragg. If you're sitting there as a jurist, I'm talking about I can't get in their heads. I don't know if they're Democrats or not. I don't know. I'm just saying, if you're a reasonable jurist, because all they need is a reasonable doubt, this guy's done right there. Like, he doesn't even know he met the prosecutor. Of course he knows. He just spoke about it in the podcast. He doesn't know a conversation he had with Trump about a 14-year-old who he considered such a threat. He had to call Trump's bodyguard, Schiller. This is a mess. And one of the things that we learned early on as on the Fed side, because we were deeper in the court system there. In the city, nothing goes to trial. Everybody's just pled out. But in the Fed system, a lot of stuff goes to trial. And I've been through quite a few of them. Is 90% of the game is not the facts. It's just not. You know the old adage, you get the facts, pound the facts. If not, pound the table. It's just not. Court is not about facts 90% of the time. I wish it were. Civil court is, contractual court. Criminal court, if someone's going to trial, they're just trying to make this guy somewhat likable. And you go back and look at the research on this, it's conclusive, There was that case a while back with the two drug dealers. The identical case. They're both accused of the same thing and the same crime. One gets like 20 years, one guy gets 5. And when they asked the jurors later, they're like, yeah, the one guy was just likable. That's not a reason. And the thing about Cohen, the problem they have is not only is he a convicted perjurer, he's now been eviscerated his credibility in front of every branch of government in this courtroom multiple times, and he just comes off unlikable. That's why the 14-year-old story, the story about the women for Michael Cohen, that's not irrelevant stuff. People are probably like, well, what does that have to do with the law? This case has nothing to do with the law. The jury's trying to determine who do they dislike more, because it's a blue state. Do they dislike Donald Trump or Michael Cohen? And Blanche, I thought today when that testimony happened, did an absolutely masterful job of eviscerating this guy's credibility and likability. The likability thing is critical.
He on that subject of likability, he zeroed in on something we've been discussing here, which is what kind of an attorney tapes his client surreptitiously. The reason we've heard Trump talking to Cohen about the payoff, not to Stormy, which is at issue in this case, but to Karen McDougal, another woman who was trying to shake him down for money, or actually, let me correct that. She was going to strike a deal with AMI, American Media, National Enquirer, to write stories for them about fitness in exchange for not, giving the story to anybody else about her love affair with Trump. So she says, the reason that's on tape is because Michael Cohen taped his own client in going back and talking to him about how he buried it. I mean, it's really it is beyond the pale for a lawyer to do that to a client. And Blanche zeroed in on it on Thursday and said, this is from audio from a September 2016 conversation. Blanche, you understand that it's not ethical for a lawyer to record a conversation with their client. Cohen agrees and then adds that recording a client conversation is permitted under the crime fraud exception to the attorney-client privilege rules, meaning it's not privileged if you and I are talking about committing a crime together. But the hush money payment is not a crime. It's not. So whatever. Okay. So then Blanche says, just so I understand, you surreptitiously recorded your client so you could play a privileged recorded communication between you and your client with a third party? Cohen, that's correct. He admits it. He wanted to play it for somebody else.
He admits it. And Megyn, this is so sleazy. Again, let's separate legality from likability, okay? The likability thing is huge in this case. It is super important. I mean, look at the data on parolees, right? Parolees, if you get in front of your parole board after lunch, you got a greater chance of getting parole because everybody's in a good mood. Michael Cohen is putting everyone in a bad mood. No one, not a jurist, not a Democrat, not a Republican, wants to be surreptitiously taped by someone they place their trust in, no less an attorney. Having said that, this is viewed on so unfavorably that in the state of Florida and Maryland, two states I lived in, it is patently illegal to tape someone without both parties consenting. New York, so I believe, is a one-party consent state, meaning if you consent and you're on the phone,
that's right,
you can record it. But that is viewed so, that's considered so shady that some states have said you can't even do that. You need
but a
this
lawyer
guy's
to a
permission.
client. If you're my client, I have a fiduciary obligation to you. I have an ethical obligation to protect you.
There is no legal or likability explanation why. I argued this. This came out, I believe it was the prosecution too, who introduced this. And I'm sitting there on my show, and like you, I'm like, having sat through trial and trial, I'm like, who the hell thought this was a good idea? Like, hey, my client, and by the way, the stuff that was recorded wasn't even the type of dispositive stuff you'd want to introduce, like, damn, we got him now. It was the kind of thing where, again, you made this guy look so shady that whatever value you think you got out of it came off completely the wrong way. And again, attorney-client privilege, I mean, this just, them stretching this crime fraud exception for everything, Megyn, here has been just embarrassing. The guy has no credibility. His own legal advisor was under oath, Costello, this week up on Capitol Hill. And the legal advisor, again, just eviscerated this guy's credibility. And it turned out that attorney-client privilege was waived by Cohen because the FBI was going after the other lawyer, too. I mean, nothing this guy touches works out, Cohen, nothing.
It is amazing that what they're really trying to tell us, the implication is the hush money, what do you ever want to call it, to these women was illegal, that there was something nefarious about it. And the ones jumping on that the most are the people over, yes, at CNN and at MSNBC. They love suggesting this lie. The nerve, Dan. MSNBC and NBC. Do you know the number of hush money payments they have had to make to women coming forward to accuse their multiple male anchors? And now they want to suggest it's a crime? Then they should all be in jail. Every executive at MSNBC, NBC, CNN, ABC, they should all be in prison.
Yeah, it's obviously, I mean, it's another example of what I call hierarchy versus hypocrisy. I mean, Megyn, you and I can argue all day. Oh, they're hypocrites. They don't care. They're not hypocrites. To them, this is hierarchy. The left-wing media owns the culture. They're in charge. And they give you the double-barrel middle finger. Whether there's not two standards, there's one standard. They're in charge and you're not. They don't care. Communists and socialists who operate by those type of authoritarian principles don't give a damn if they look bad doing their commie stuff. So that's the problem with that. But I like the Andy McCarthy approach. He's a very talented lawyer. You see him on, Fox elsewhere. I know you know him. But Andy's a very smart guy. He was an old SDNY, AUSA, deep experience in the criminal case realm. And he's like, listen, man, I got to tell you, I don't even think they should argue this. They should come out and say, Donald Trump didn't know about these payments. And even if he did, it doesn't matter. It's not illegal. Right. You have no case. Them arguing over and over, did he know or did he not, implies somehow that there's a basis criminally, because that's what they're there for this case. And that's all they should say. He didn't know. Even Cohen's lawyer, Costello's saying the guy didn't know. He's saying Cohen told him that. But even if he did, and none of you believe that at all, it still doesn't matter because that's still not a crime. And no one's established it. Forget it beyond a reasonable doubt. There's not even a reason, probable cause for us to be here.
No, you could get an instruction from the judge that to the jury that if at the beginning, it's too late now, where he could have said, for the record, Mr. Trump denies that he ever had an affair with Stormy Daniels. And he denies that he knew anything about this payment that Michael Cohen made to her. However, he will stipulate that whatever he's willing to give. But the point is, the next instruction to the jury would be, what's at issue here is whether he was aware of how the payment to Stormy Daniels was recorded in the Trump books and whether he knew there was a discrepancy between that record keeping and the truth. That's it. So you maintain for the record, Donald Trump does dispute this, but for the purposes of this trial, we don't have to get into that. He's going to let you believe whatever you want to believe. It's not irrelevant to your determination. But instead, this is a defense mistake. We've had lots of testimony on Stormy and the positions and the birth control protections and, whatever, STD protection, whatever. And it's all been a walk down her weird, disgusting, X-rated lane that none of us wanted to take, Dan.
Yeah, I'm not really, interested in, hearing what happened that, he was blocking. And the story changes 1,000 times. I mean, when Bill Maher,
no, she's a Me Too victim.
No fan of, yeah. I mean, when he comes out and says, hey, listen, this Me Too stuff, she said literally the exact opposite. She
Dan,
made an
in
explicit,
her book, she said that night she made Trump her bitch.
she was proud of it.
How the Harvey victims spoke.
No, they're not. And it just goes to show how fraudulent and bullshit the left is too. I mean, they've got this thing going on this week with the FDIC that just there's a guy at the head of the FDIC running an agency with rampant sexual harassment, and the left doesn't give a shit. Like Martin Grunberg. I know it's the craziest story ever. And the media, of course, ignoring it because the guy's a Democrat.
The FDIC of all places.
Yeah, the FDIC. Like you would think, I know, like what the hell's going on? Like you banking? What are they doing? It reminds me of that scene from what is she doing back there? And like no one knows what the hell they're doing at the FDIC. Well, now you know. But it just goes, these people are total frauds. Like this whole Me Too movement has entirely collapsed because now they've got this woman who they should be calling out. They should say, hey, listen, sexual harassment, this is a serious topic, okay? You've got women out there who seriously are being in the workplace. And I mean, listen, I don't need to lecture you on this. I mean, this is stuff that happens and this is really serious. And she's making a mockery out of it. Yes. Here's the video of her on Bill Maher. Oh, saying none of this happened. It was voluntary. This is specifically not a forced case. And then she's in court trying to imply it. And if I were a real victim of this, which thankfully I don't know anyone who was, and at least in my family, and I hope never too, I would be like, that's pretty offensive. And you think people on the left would come out, but because in their hierarchy of needs, they don't care about hypocrisy. It's power to them, and that's their ultimate goal. And she represents an obstacle to their power, Donald Trump, and taking him down, then you know what? It's one of the casualties of war.
They're literally treating her like Joan of Arc. I mean, she's a heroine.
Oh,
she's going to take him down. Michael Cohen, as disgusting as he is, he's a hero to them because they all have a shared goal, which is destroy Trump. That manifests on television every day.
Megyn? You remember Carville during the Clinton era? I mean, you and I remember that. Well, if you drag $1 to a trailer park and the bimbo, we're calling women bimbos and the bimbo eruption. I mean, I'm just asking the liberals who watch this show. You got them too. I mean, I got them. I get their death threats and stuff every day as you listen to the radio show. I do. I know there's tons of watch. I'm just asking you a serious question. Like, this is the kind of thing I have no problem calling out. I don't care if you're a Republican, a Democrat, conservative, or a communist. I have 2 daughters at home. Leave them the hell alone. Let them go to work and let them do their thing.
George Stephanopoulos had Nancy Mace on his show and took issue with how on earth she could support a man who had been accused of sexual assault or rape. George Stephanopoulos,
accusing Nancy Mace, who was a rape victim.
It's so fun when you can exploit a lady's rape. I love that. But he's the one we have to thank for Bill Clinton. His whole book talks about how he tried to bury all those women, hurt them, whole war rooms devoted. He didn't give a shit whether they were telling the truth. He just wanted Clinton to win. But he can't understand how Nancy Mace, you've got to be kidding.
No, I saw the whole clip. I mean, again, it's just an example of what I said. You can't beat the left on pointing out hypocrisy because they don't care. Now, you can beat them with independence and pointing it out, but they don't care. The central tenet of the authoritarian tendency is we're in charge and crave power. Principles come second. What they do is they beat us up using our principles against us. They do it all the time, the left. That's how they're doing this now. And I mean, not to get off topic, but all these college campus rallies, they're going, oh, you conservatives, join us. It's a First Amendment issue. It is certainly not. I'm in no way objecting to the First Amendment right. I'm just saying, don't threaten that guy's life and say, I want to kill you because you're Jewish. That's not a First Amendment issue. That's called against the law. That's menacing. You're not allowed to do that, dipshits. But they do this all the time. They appeal to our principles because they have none. And suckers sometimes fall for this. And I try to tell people all the time, do not get roped into this BS. Stand on principle, do the right thing, and in the end, you'll be on the right moral arc of history, not these losers. The examples of their failures are everywhere on this.
It is amazing to watch her bastardize the Me Too movement and not hear one woman's rights advocate, in quotes, on the left speak up to say, this is bullshit, stop glomming on, this is disrespectful. But that's what they do. On their chosen issues, their sacred cows, they are the moral arbiters, and the rest of us are bad people, even if we've been through it ourselves. And that leads me to my next clip. It's not true in any department more than it's true when it comes to racial stuff. So they, of course, notwithstanding Joe Biden's long history of saying racial things, racist things, they think Trump is the racist in this contest. And recently Trump made a comment which didn't strike any of us who have been watching the race as particularly controversial. I mean, we all saw all the TikTok videos among Black Americans after he had the mugshot and put it out on an actual mug, and how so many Black Americans were celebrating the moment and celebrating Trump's toughness and his big middle finger to the system and saying, I'm going to fight all of this. Okay, Trump makes a comment on it, and they lost their mind. I'm going to walk you through the sequence because it's absolutely beautiful. You're going to love it. All right, so here's the Trump comment that it was just like a week or two ago that they reacted to.
I got indicted for nothing, for something that is nothing. They were doing it because it's election interference. And then I got indicted a second time and a third time and a fourth time. And a lot of people said that that's why the black people like me, because they have been hurt so badly and discriminated against. And they actually viewed me as I'm being discriminated against. It's been pretty amazing. But the black people are so much on my side now because they see what's happening to me happens to them. Does that make sense? The mugshot, we've all seen the mugshot. And you know who embraced it more than anybody else? The black population. It's incredible. You see black people walking around with my mugshot. You know, they do shirts and they sell them for $19 a piece. It's pretty amazing.
Okay, so that's February 23rd of this year. Here's a little sampling as to how the media reacted. I could have done 20 more shots, but here we've kept it short.
I couldn't be more, and I'm going to take the privilege of speaking for all Black people. I couldn't be more offended by that statement. Him saying black the way that he did, it just felt mocking in some sense.
Let's be clear. Donald Trump is using the stereotype of blacks being criminals. He's in a mugshot for trying to interfere with an election. Blacks were arrested to get the right to vote.
America, please share it with your Trump-loving friends. Have them understand why what we just heard is so unbelievably racist, but also problematic for a democracy. That man should never be president of the United States.
Only reason we have a mugshot is because of the black DA in Fulton County and the black sheriff that made sure he got one to ensure that he knew that he was not above the law. So it is disgusting. It is offensive.
Okay. I love the one woman. I'm just going to speak for all black people. I was appointed head black. Here's how we all feel. He's a racist, okay? Those are racist comments. Kim Godwin, the recently ousted president of ABC News, who is black, she felt the need to weigh in, which is extraordinary to have the president of a network, Dan, weigh in on something like this, and said, those comments, quote, are as racist as they come. And went on to say, no matter what your politics, the fact that a person running for president made these remarks, period, but also to a public crowd, and with so many black people present, and that they stand with him is mind-blowing, shocking. Okay, so what did he say? He said, black people like me because they've been hurt so badly and discriminated against, and they actually viewed me as I'm being discriminated against. They're so much on my side now because they see what's happening to me happens to them. Does that make sense? Flash forward to this week. MSNBC, which was responsible for many of those thoughts we just played in horror, did a focus group with some voters. I think was it in Georgia? Some Trump voters in Georgia, two of whom in this clip for the listening audience are black. And listen to what happened.
Do each of you support Donald Trump?
I do.
Yes. Yes for all three of you? Yes. Has this trial changed your opinion, even caused you to waver or question that at all?
No, it's actually caused me to support him more. I just don't believe there's a coincidence that we have a trial happening in Atlanta. We have one happening in New York. So the question people are beginning to ask themselves, like I did, is like, why now?
I've talked to many people who formerly identified as a Democrat. They have changed their political persuasion to independent, and they are looking forward to voting for Trump. Wow. Because now they find something in common with a political candidate at that level.
When you say they find commonality, what is that commonality?
They have felt persecuted by the system of American injustice. And it's not a stretch for them to think that Trump may be a victim as well.
Dan.
Yeah.
Where does Trump go for his apology?
Yeah. Well, listen, I'll just say to these leftists, like, honestly, man, nobody gives a shit anymore. They really don't. You've thrown this term around. So we just don't. Listen, Republicans call real racism out when they see it. We're not waiting for you to do it. We don't, matter of fact, when you do it, we ignore it because you call everyone a racist. So we just assume you're lying. We actually call real racist bullshit out. You jokers on the left, nobody cares anymore. Everybody's a racist to you. It's phony. It's fake. You don't care about it. Nobody's listening to you. 30 years ago in radio or TV, you being tarred by a major cable outlet as a racist was a death sentence for your career. Nobody's even listening anymore. So much so, I know this story because I covered it, and I covered that panel on MSNBC, but it had absolutely zero traction because everyone just assumed, oh, it's MSNBC saying someone's a racist again. It's like right over everyone's head.
It's a day ending in Y.
What's that?
It's a day ending in Y.
Yeah, it's a day ending in Y. Exactly. It's just typical leftist nonsense. And I'll say, secondly, another point of irony, that the weapon they want to use the most, they've so diluted its potency that it has no effect. The second point I'd like to introduce on this one is that, the left with the racist cudgel has told Black and Hispanic and minority voters for years that there's this thing out there that exists it's called systemic discrimination or systemic racism. So, whenever I was doing Fox or my own show, I'd say, well, okay, the system is racist. That's the derivative word, right? Systemic racism. Who's running the system where the racism is happening? Oh, look, big cities led by Democrats. So yes, systemic racism is real. Liberals are doing it. Correct? Like, where is this happening? It's happening in your cities. Liberals, you're doing it. So it's strange that you've told Black and Hispanic voters for years, the system we have governed under, our system, this liberal system, is racist. Donald Trump then goes and gives a speech and speaks in a way plainly that Donald Trump speaks. Donald Trump's not a racist. He's not anything close to racist. We shouldn't even have to say that. It's just liberal bullshit.
This is one of the things people love about Trump, how plainly he speaks.
Yeah, he's candid. He just doesn't talk in focus group tested nonsense and scientific research abstracts. He talks like normal people talk. And he brings up the point, hey, you've been told the system screwed you over? Yeah, it probably has. And you know what? System's screwing me over too. Yeah, conveniently, in some of the same cities, you're getting screwed over. New York City, Fulton County, and a lot of voters are out there going, kind of sounds right to me. And it's chapping their butts that this guy's beating them at their own game. That's the only reason they're doing this. And I'm telling you, nobody cares. 0 people listen to the left with their faux charges of racism. We call it out on our own. We don't need these idiots.
What's interesting to me, though, is that it's just, as you point out, it's not working. And it's not even working with the people they think are their core base. I mean, Black women are overwhelmingly Democrat. They're losing Black men as registered Republicans. But we saw that New York Times Siena poll come out earlier this week that showed the same results from November. Trump's winning in 5 out of the 6 key swing states. All states Joe Biden won in 2020, Trump's up. In some cases by 10 points, by 6 points. I mean, big margins. And so strong, robust State of the Union response, at least that was the narrative in the media about Joe Biden, tens of millions of dollars of ads in all of these swing states, nonstop coverage on MSNBC about what a criminal he is and what a racist he is, and of course, what a sexist he is, because the Stormy thing, it all ties together, right? Nothing. Hasn't moved the needle at all. He's winning. I realize it's not voting day, but right now, he's winning. And to me, it does seem like that had to be Biden's calculation for saying, okay, I'll do it because I'm the one on the debates. I'm the one who needs a game changer in this race.
Yeah, I there's so much there. One of the things I want to say about this is I called this a long time ago, and it was by no means due to my political analytical skills or anything. It was just listening to people. About, 3 years ago, a business partner of mine, he's at a sporting event that we do business with. And he does a lot of business with a lot of Black business leaders, entertainers, sports figures, a lot, not just a little bit. And he calls me after the event. He's like, hey, man, you're never going to believe this, but this really prominent guy who comments on the rap industry told me, you're never going to believe how many of these guys love Trump. He said they call him like Uncle Trump or something like that, and they love this guy. I said, really? He says, Dan, I'm telling you, man, they love this guy. He goes, this isn't the first time I've heard this. Sports everywhere. And I thought there's something going on there. So I put that out on my show, and it was interesting because all of the negative feedback I got were from conservative influencers who were like, oh man, that's not true. You're overestimating this. And now you're seeing it in the numbers. Now, is Trump going to win 25% of the Black vote? No, not even close. He doesn't have to. If he wins 18 or 20%, there's no math.
14. And if he wins 14,
it's over.
Watershed.
And people have to understand here that this isn't, I know they get it. I shouldn't have said it that way. Me sound like a jerk, but this is not a national election. It is a series of state elections in the Electoral College. And when you look at these states, Pennsylvania has Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. You flip 4 or 5 percentage points of the Black vote with a substantially large Black population in Philly, in Pittsburgh, in Atlanta, in Detroit. To Democrats listening to your show, you need to understand there's no math whatsoever for you to win a presidential election now or any time in the future. It is the Democrats' biggest nightmare. It's why, to the Democrats out there and the liberals who have been gaslit, it's why everything's racist all the time. And I'll make another case. Listen, I get it. I've been a Trump supporter for a while, and it's not for the reasons people think. I'm a pretty diehard doctrinaire conservative. I get it. Has he been the most conservative guy in the past on some issues? No. I mean, Donald Trump, the one thing I respect about him is, contrary to what people tell you, you do not have to be in line with Donald Trump or he's going to kick you out of his camp. That's bullshit. Whoever's telling you that is lying or doesn't know. Donald Trump and I disagreed publicly on my radio show. You can listen. It's a clip on my channel about abortion. We disagree on it. He has never once been like, Dan, agree with me, or I'm kicking you out of the next event. That's total crap. We've disagreed. So you may say, well, if you disagree on this issue, there's a couple more. I wasn't crazy about criminal justice reform either, but I'm with him on taxes. I'm with him on regulatory reform, judicial appointments, school choice. Yeah, obviously the border, national security. I think he's got the NATO situation right. I think he's got incredible political instincts. I'll say this about the guy. His lasting gift to the Republican Party is going to be none of that stuff. And what do you mean? I'm telling you, it's going to be none of that stuff. His greatest gift to the party, his greatest gift, those are all good things, the judicial appointments and everything else, is going to be he opened the eyes of a number of groups of demographic, people out there who had never in their life considered a Republican, who somehow looked at him and said, I don't know, it's my guy. What is it? I don't know. The French have a name for it called the je ne sais quoi. If we knew what it was, we'd bottle it. We don't. Donald Trump has his gift, charisma, political instincts. I don't know. Yeah. I ran for office. I lost. I obviously don't have it. I do a different thing. You have it. However, that is, well, thank you. I appreciate it. But that is his gift. His gift is going to be changing the coalition of what the Republican Party looks like in the future. And I guarantee you on the show, cash this check and spend the money. That is 100% going to be his legacy.
I love that. And the other thing about Trump is he showed Republicans how to fight. You don't have to follow these rules.
Yeah,
you don't
have total wusses before.
You don't have to do it the way that Mitt Romney says you have to do it, or just, the Commission on Presidential Debates says you have to do it. Joe Biden, he never would have said F you to the Commission on Presidential Debates had it not been for Trump, just thumbing his middle finger at the debate process in the primaries and just doing it the way he wants. He's sort of shown people you don't have to play within these rules that everybody else set for you.
Yeah, and I think, one more thing, you're correct, 100%. I mean, even George W. Bush, they were, that old line, don't fight people who buy ink by the barrel. The old idea was if the media is against you, just kind of acquiesce and, be as obedient as you can, like a little lapdog, and move on. And Trump not only said, well, F that, Trump actually said, you guys are fake news, and he made them the story. I mean, he made those war against the media, which a lot of Americans kind of attached to, and were like, yeah, I get it. Like, I've been screwed over by these people too. But, one more thing on this too, is what I was going to mention is, this was a very unique time. Well, every time's unique, but I mean unique, and I hate that word too, which is ironic because I just can't stand unique or literal, which are two words you should probably not hate. But Joe Biden running against Donald Trump, Megyn, was the perfect foil. It was like a diamond on a black background, right? I have no doubt Trump could have done these things against another candidate, but I think the eye-opening for the Black and Hispanic community, a lot of minority voters, younger voters, where Trump is doing well. Republicans always get their asses kicked by younger voters. I mean, that was just a fact that was baked into the cake. Is just the foil effect. Life's about contrast. I mean, we've all seen the optical illusion, two parallel lines. You put a slanted line in between them, and they look like they're going towards each other. They're not. It's an illusion. So it's a contrast that matters. The contrast with Joe Biden, I mean, listen, I know a lot about that. He's just a really disgusting guy. He's an awful guy. He's a liar. He is a sociopathic narcissist. He is also incompetent. And the fact that he cannot accept the fact that he cognitively isn't there. I don't wish ill on the guy. I really don't. I'm not an immoral cat. Good for you, man. You got old. You lived a long life. Everybody gets old. I'll be there too one day. The thing is, he's the same age as Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, for as much as I can't stand him, is still all there and walks around like he's 20 years old. Not Chuck Joe Grassley. Biden. The fact that, exactly. The fact that Trump has this foil, I think has made even more voters say, well, I liked him in the first place, but now I really like him compared to this goofball. So Biden's actually been a gift in that respect.
Grand Canyon University, a private Christian university in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona, believes in equal opportunity and that the American dream starts with purpose. Change the world for good by putting others before yourself. Whether your pursuit involves a bachelor's, master's, or doctoral degree, GCU's online, on-campus, and hybrid learning environments are designed to help you achieve your unique academic, personal, and professional goals. With over 330 academic programs as of September, GCU meets you where you are and provides a path to help you fulfill your dreams. The pursuit to serve others is yours. Let it flourish. Find your purpose at Grand Canyon University. Private, Christian, affordable. Visit gcu.edu. How do you think the Hunter Biden trials are going to play? Because we've got not one, but two now scheduled to start in June. And if Hunter Biden were this sweet, sad little character who's being wrongly bullied by the feds, I think it could actually have the effect of creating sympathy for Joe Biden. And that seems to be where the White House is going for it. We saw them already getting the talking points out. Like, this is going to be really hard for the president. He may be just despondent over his poor son and what he's having to go through because Joe's the president. But I have my doubts whether that narrative is going to sell. You know how they've been doing all along. He's a drug addict. Yeah. I love my son. Whether that is going to sell because Hunter Biden is so unlikable.
Yeah. I mean, that goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning, right? I mean, politics
like
is no different, than a court case. I mean, it really isn't. Politics is about who's the most likable guy. I want this guy more than the other one. It's an interesting point. There's a kind of a little bit of a triple, quadruple reverse psychology take place where they thought they'd get Trump by lawfare. I'm not suggesting Hunter's lawfare. Those are real cases. He actually did, is charged with this stuff. However, it's interesting. Like it obviously backfired against Trump and martyred the guy. I mean, that's just clear. Look at the polls. It's clear as day. They started going up right after the search warrant, his polls. I think this case is different. And I'll tell you why. Because Biden is transparently lied about it. I mean, he hasn't kind of like obliquely lied about it. He has transparently lied and said, I knew nothing about my son's business. Now that story has evolved and morphed into 5 or 6 different iterations. But Biden's in a little bit of trouble. Like Trump's stories never change. He's like, I don't know anything about this. Even if I did, it's not illegal. Trump's story about the papers. You notice with the papers, he doesn't say I don't have papers. What does he say? Hey, I was the president, Presidential Records Act. It's the same story every time. You get what I'm saying? With the Hunter case, it's totally different, right? Joe Biden's come out and said, hey, I'm a good dad. I didn't know anything about this nefarious, illicit, potentially illegal deal this guy was doing. Really? There's a check for $40,000 written to one Joseph R. Biden. What was that for? Was it house painting? What were you doing here? Were you teaching basket weaving? I mean, no one's explained yet what this guy actually does. It's why the business stuff never stuck with Donald Trump either. Everybody was like, well, Donald Trump was going to build a hotel tower in Russia. Really? Donald Trump's in the hotel business. Reminds me of that line from The Usual Suspects. I can place you in Queens on the night of the robbery. Really? I live in Queens. You figure that out yourself, or you got a team of monkeys working around the clock? I mean, none of this works for Joe Biden. I love that. I talked to Chaz Palminteri about that movie too. He loved it.
Was magnificent.
A lot of that stuff was
I got to say, Kevin Spacey was also magnificent.
Fantastic movie. I love it. But that's my point, is that I don't think that's going to, martyring Joe Biden here, I don't think works. But I will say too that I think the Joe Biden is corrupt narrative is at this point is kind of baked in the cake. I don't think it hurts anyone. I think it's legally the right thing to do, to prosecute Hunter Biden, so the nobody above the law thing. You want to, okay, you guys said that, now nobody is. But I'm not sure. I think Joe Biden right now at this point is on the terminal decline electorally, and whether Hunter Biden's guilty or not, it's not going to help him, or I just don't think it hurts him anymore at this. He's going down no matter what.
See, I think Trump lies and Biden lies, and they all lie. I mean, all politicians lie. We've been living with these long enough to know. I mean, you almost can't make it to the presidency without lying. It's sad, but it's kind of where we are.
Well, I make this point all the time. Yes, 100%. I say this every single day. I can on my show. Everybody lies, no doubt. Nobody in politics is even close to telling you the truth, even half the time.
No,
but that's not the question. Everything in life is on the margin, right? In the summer, it's not AC or no AC. It's how much. It's not like on or off. Life's about the margin. The problem Biden has is everybody bakes into the cake politicians lie. It's the degree of lying that matters. The problem Biden has in relationship to Trump is Biden's full of shit all the time. He was raised in the Puerto Rican community, Black community, about himself, the Polish community, the Greek community.
Magnificent ties to every single community.
17,000 miles in the Tibetan Plateau. He met Angelo on Amtrak, despite the fact Angelo was dead. He traveled the world with Xi Jinping. He had oil slicks on his window. His uncle was eaten by cannibals. He was a lifeguard who saved 20 people's lives. He beat the shit out of Corn Pop. He was a truck driver. None of this shit is true. He went to shul. He went to the synagogue. He went to the mosque. He went to the black church. Nobody spent more time in houses of worship than this guy. Do you think he'd be a saint? Everything he says is full of shit. It's not that he lies. You're 100% right. Trump lies, DeSantis lies, Biden lies, Kamala Harris lies. Politicians lie. It's their job. Yeah. It's that Biden lies about everything.
He's like pathological.
People are like, I can't trust this guy. Yeah,
it's true. He's so
absolutely pathological. It's clinical.
His own bio, every single lie he tells about himself is self-aggrandizing, right? Like he makes himself look so much better than he actually is. But the real problem for him, I think people could actually forgive that. It's like, okay, fine, he's some puffery. He wants us to think he's some hotshot, whatever, football player and black man secret and all that. But the real problem is he's lying to us about our situation, right? He's looking at us like through Majorca saying the border's secure. Okay, it's not secure.
Yeah.
He's looking at us saying things like, inflation was at 9% when I took over. We know that's not true. And it's not just Biden. So he lied about that. I actually want to play this for you because I haven't seen Karine Jean-Pierre in a while, and it's always amusing. She's always worth a soundbite. I'll give her 30 seconds of my day. She never disappoints. So yeah, he said this just recently that it was 9% when I came into office. It's a lie. It was around 1%. And here's Karine Jean-Pierre. Watch this. Just watch the meandering answer she gave when she got asked by a reporter about Joe Biden's lie.
I'm going to ask you about how the president talks about inflation. So two times over the past 2 weeks, the president said inflation was 9% when he came into office. Is the president misleading Americans on that, or does he just not realize that inflation was 1.4%?
So, and thank you for the question, because I know that we got a lot of incoming on this yesterday. And look, what the president the point that he was making is that the factors that caused inflation was in place when he walked into the administration, when he took office. As you know, the pandemic caused inflation around the world to be by disrupting our economy and breaking our supply chains. As you know, we had to act quickly on dealing with the supply chain. He put together a task force. You saw the president do that.
I mean, it was like meandering like a creek in the middle of Montana. It went on and on, and never was there a word about the fact that it was 1.4% and not 9%, and he lied.
Okay, now we're in my wheelhouse because economics I absolutely love. This is my favorite thing to talk about. I know it's the dismal science. I promise I'll make it undismal. Karine Jean-Pierre is a representative of this entire administration, someone who has so little credibility with any persuadable voter out there that when she opens her mouth, it's such an embarrassment. They typically have to bring John Kirby in to rescue her. I mean, when New York Post stories and other liberal outlet stories are being written about how insiders desperately want her gone, it's just so kind of epidemic of this entire administration and their attachment to just serial dishonesty. Now, I agree with you. Like, people are baked into the cake, his faux autobiography. At this point, I think even Democrats just laugh at him. Like, yeah, you were a letterman in college. You had soft hands as a receiver. Like, we get you're just lying about that. It's a shame he can never tell the truth. But you're right. This is the stuff that kicks people like right, but like hurts, man. Like, put a cup on. They hate this because they go to the grocery store every day and they see it. I call inflation the finger stick issue. It's like the finger sticks diabetics have to do before they got that patch, right? It's not annoying enough that you won't do it. But it's annoying enough that you hate doing it. That's why they invented the glucose patch, because no one wants to do that every day. That's inflation. It's on your mind all the time. It's not one thing that's going to drive you totally crazy. Like, say, street crime become an issue if, God forbid, your house is broken into. Like, that's enough to change you right there. Inflation's not like that. It's a finger stick issue. It just slowly drives you nuts. And when someone tells you, like, oh, no, that's not annoying, it feels great. And you're like, no, it doesn't. I do it 3-4 times a day. You don't want to be told that. And the thing about their lies is they are so easy to debunk and discredit. I'm serious. Like, a third grader could do it. All you have to do is go to Scroogle or any left-wing search engine, chat GPT, and say, what was inflation when Joe Biden took over? And you'll find out that the number was 1.4%. If you know anything about economics, you'll understand that the Fed, even if you trust the Fed, which I don't, but even if you did, their target rate for inflation, what they think is okay, is 2. So what you're telling me is Donald Trump beat the target rate? Beat the target, was less than that. Less inflation is good. And I love the answer by Karine Jean-Pierre. I played that one on my show because it was the greatest cell phone in the history of economics. She goes, okay, yeah, maybe it wasn't 9% inflation when Biden took office, but the factors were there. Oh, okay, hold on, genius. So now what you're saying is every single factor for inflation was there. Donald Trump not only kept the lid on it, but kept it below even the Fed's guidelines. And the minute your doofus of a boss took over, it exploded to 9%. And you think that's a good answer? I was sitting there like, that's the greatest answer I ever heard. This is like a Trump re-election ad. Trump did everything to keep a lid on it. And this idiot gets in office and it explodes right away.
But these two things are totally unconnected. I don't know how we got here, but I know it wasn't Joe Biden's fault. So it is true that they tried to get rid of Karine Jean-Pierre. There was a movement within the White House reportedly to bounce her. And the report was that she stopped it with the I'm black and I'm a lesbian and a woman card. She was like, I've got the triple. Try somebody else. All right. And it's great because live by the sword, die by the sword. Those are their rules. She was 100% right. You hire me for this. You can't fire me because of this. That's the way it works here on the left. Sorry, we're all card carrying members. You can't bounce the black female lesbian. She trumped him. So she was right. That was a victory she deserved. The same is true of Kamala Harris, who they want to eject from the Democratic ticket. A lot of Democrats have written think pieces about this over the past 7-8 months. It doesn't look like it's going to happen now as we get closer and closer to the convention. Did you know Fast Growing Trees is the biggest online nursery in the United States with more than 10,000 different kinds of plants and over 2 million happy customers? And now you yourself, yes, you can grow lemon, avocado, olive, or fig trees. They have houseplants too. Fast Growing Trees makes it easy to order online and ship directly to your door in 1 to 2 days. You can even speak to their specialists for a free consultation. You can find the perfect fit for your specific climate, location, and needs. Whether you're looking to add some privacy, shade, or natural beauty to your yard, Fast Growing Trees is ready to help you make the right selection from their nursery. Right now, they have some of the best deals online, like up to half off on select plants and more. Viewers get an additional 15% off when they use the code Megyn at checkout. Why wouldn't you do that? That's an additional 15% off at fastgrowingtrees.com just by using the code MEGYN at checkout. Go to fastgrowingtrees.com, code Megyn. The offer won't last forever, so go there now and tell them I sent you. As we draw near another critical election, it's not just about casting your vote, it's about elevating your voice. I want to tell you about the Association of Mature American Citizens, or AMAC. It's more than just a senior discount org. They unite like-minded patriots committed to preserving our cherished values and actively opposing the leftist agenda. As AMAC's membership grows, Washington listens. Every new member strengthens this movement. If you love America, check out amac.us/Megyn and consider becoming a 4-year member for just $30. AMAC membership gives you access to the AMAC magazine, free Social Security and Medicare guidance, money-saving discounts, trusted news, sweepstakes, and more. Take advantage of their election year sale, 4 years for just $30 by joining the over 2 million members and get your voice heard. Join now at amac.us/Megyn. That's amac.us/MEGYN. I promised you some Kamala Harris thoughts, and I aim to deliver. This is why they want to get rid of her. Just her amazing eloquence and ability to nail a point succinctly with as few words, an economy of words as possible. Here's just a little sample in SOT 22.
A lot of joy. I have to tell you, in our young people and our young leaders, I started a college tour last fall.
Yes.
And meeting with Gen Z and all these young people who are not waiting around for us to fix things. They are ready to take it on. You know, things like gun violence, climate crisis. And I think that part of what we all embrace and need to acknowledge is that we measure the strength of ourselves not based on who we beat down, but who we lift up.
Who we lift up.
And let's continue to focus on that as a way to strengthen ourselves, our country, but also to give us joy, right?
Is the tear starting?
What did she do? What is that? I don't
Is it
know.
happening?
You know what? See, no, you know, my what is lacrimal glands or whatever they're now, forget it. Now they're completely dried out.
Sahara.
I know. I'm sweating because I'm so uncomfortable listening to this woman talk. You know, she reminds me of Buttigieg. She does. And the both of them have this same problem. Nobody says less by saying more than those two. Have you ever heard them talking? Like, you hear that and you're like, Buttigieg does this all the time. You're like, we're going to beat people down and we're going to lift them up. And you're like, yeah, man, that sounds good. What the hell do you what do you mean? Like when Buttigieg talks at the end, you're like, man, that sounded good. What the did he just say? No one knows what he said. No one has any idea. This is Kamala Harris. And this, by the way, this goes back to my cannibalism theory of the left. While we're on the topic of, Buttigieg, Harris, Karine Jean-Pierre, I have this and it's not an Uncle Brosy thing. Like my cannibalism theory in the left comes true every single time. The left is obsessed with this silly idea that you are somehow defined by absolutely irrelevant characteristics, gay or straight, black or white, irrelevant to your job. I'm not saying they're irrelevant to your life, irrelevant to your job. Whether you can be president or press secretary or Department of Transportation head has nothing to do with any of that. Unfortunately, it has primacy with the left. So with the cannibalism theory is as follows. The good ones, I'm not talking about the swampy loser ones, they don't care about this. They're going to hire people because they're competent, and that's kind of it. Good conservatives. The clowns will play the game, right? The left is so now trapped in this that they're going to wind up eating themselves alive because we don't care about that kind of criticism. Conservatives are going to be like, why'd you hire that guy? Because he's good? Why'd you fire him? Because he sucks? Nobody cares what you blame it on. Nobody. We're immune to that. We've suffered cancel culture for 20 years. We give zero shits about it anymore. The left is so embedded in this. It's become a dogmatic Jim Jones-like religion. The Kool-Aid is already done. They can't escape from it. You're going to see themselves slowly, progressively, pun intended, eat themselves alive right now as Karine Jean-Pierre, who's clearly incompetent. There's nothing to do with her skin color or she's gay. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares. She's just bad at this. She's really, really bad at this. I mean, I'll give you a perfect example. Hakeem Jeffries, a guy I don't share a single ideologically aligned issue with. He's not a half-bad communicator. It has nothing to do with the guy's skin color. She just can't do the damn job.
Right.
So they're going to eat themselves alive. That's why she'll never leave. And you're right. She's smart. Megyn, the smartest move Karine Jean-Pierre made. Karine, here you go. Good. What do they say? Slay, queen. What does the left say? All the kids You stay there, girlfriend. You keep doing.
Fight.
You do your thing. You stay. Fight back. I am with you. I'm not even kidding. Much respect.
Same.
Smartest thing you ever did. You stay there right until the end, until you're ready to leave. I'm not even messing with you. Smart move.
I bet she even said that one extemporaneously, Dan. She didn't have to read a thing. Black,
didn't have to
female, gay. Fuck off. That's
good.
These
are the rules they set up. You guys want to live your life by irrelevant characteristics that have nothing to do with people, then good. Then you live by it. We're going to keep judging people by their character and merit and actual stuff that matters. You guys can bathe in all that shit.
Here's the capper. So speaking of Kamala Harris, she goes on, she was at yet another place at the, what was it? Asian Pacific American Institute for Congressional Studies Legislative Leadership Summit. Okay, great. And she had some pearls of wisdom. So she like Kamala Harris, honestly, what had she done prior to being selected as Joe Biden's VP? I mean, nothing. She had an affair with a very prominent politician out in California that put her on the political map. And then she became attorney general. And then before you knew it, she was bounced into his running mate position. She wants to rewrite the story. And by the way, we knew Biden said, I want to pick somebody who's a black female. He had promised that to Clyburn. So he did it in the Supreme Court, and then he did it in the vice presidential slot. And here she is rewriting the history about this is her being an empowered woman, Dan. This is like, and this is how it's done, just in case you didn't know, this is how it's done. This is what you have to do if you want to succeed in your life. SOT 23.
Don't ever carry as a personal burden your capacity to do whatever you dream and aspire to do based on other people's limited ability to see who can do what. this is part of what's involved, is that we have to know that sometimes people will open the door for you and leave it open. Sometimes they won't. And then you need to kick that fucking door down. Excuse my language.
Okay.
It's so insulting.
And by that,
it's so
by
scripted.
that, she means we all need to sleep with Willie Brown. That's what kicking the fucking door. If you got to sleep with Willie Brown to get ahead, Dan, you do it. You understand?
It is so scripted and so silly and so ridiculous. They've set themselves up in this this preposterous trap right now, where again they go to America and then they keep pitching this nonsense about DEI, which I call DIE. And then again, you bring out Kamala Harris, who is so clearly completely incompetent for the job. And I mean, they've absolutely lost the narrative. In that moment there, I've seen that clip a couple of times. That just speaks to who Kamala Harris is. She is totally not genuine. And it's this artificial, like, I've got a curse to be relatable. Like, listen, I don't have the best mouth in the world, but, you know, I grew up in Queens, and that's just kind of how we talk. So it slips out once in a while, and well, more than once in a while. That was so scripted. You can tell. You can tell someone told her, hey, you're so not relatable to people that matter for our constituency, or young voters, black voters, minority voters. So come out and drop an F-bomb, and everybody's going to love you. And what's weird about it is she does it, and she acts like the very same people she's trying to court don't know she's full of shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it's so fake and artificial and phony. Yeah, it's so cringe, the whole thing.
You felt it on a gut level. I don't know if she swears or not, but that one was obviously inserted for effect. And it's just absurd to me that, like, a country that did recognize her, she became attorney general, she became a U.S. senator, she became vice president, and now she's got to sort of talk about how it's impossible to break through these doors. You know, she just have to break them down. Just like Michelle Obama, same thing. You know, it's like, look how much you've achieved in this wonderful country of ours. You're still bitter. Whenever you get the opportunity,
Megyn,
you've got to rip on the
too.
country and your countrymen.
This is how phony she is. If you remember back to the Democrat primary in 2020, it was Kamala Harris who basically openly implied Joe Biden was a racist. Everybody remembers the bus story. Forget that story. That's not the one that mattered. Joe Biden was friends with a Democrat senator. And I'm not talking about Robert Byrd. He eulogized. I was there, by the way, when that happened. I was a Secret Service agent that day when Obama and Biden talked about, I forget, what was Byrd's title? Grand Exalted Cyclops of the Ku Klux
wasn't
Klan?
he Grand Wizard?
Yeah, I don't know. Neither me nor you are familiar with KKK titles, but I read it somewhere and I was like, the guy was what the hell's an exalted Cyclops? Like, this guy, he eulogized him. But that's not even the worst part. The story about Biden gets even worse. It was Kamala Harris. You can go back and look this up, who pointed out, what was the guy's name? Eagleman? There was this Democrat senator who was just basically an open racist. And this was not hidden at all. He was endorsed basically by the KKK. This was Biden's buddy. Biden is on the record talking about this guy like, hey, we were pals, we were friends. Now, listen, if you're going to run as like this DEI diversity guy and look at me, I'm your representative. If you're an oppressed minority in the country, fine, you run on what you want. But this guy's totally full of shit. And the irony of it is Kamala Harris was the one who pointed out, I think his name is Engelman or whatever it was, I forget the name, but you can look the clip up. It's Harris saying, hey, you know, she was endorsed. These guys were friends, Biden and this guy. And this guy was like KKK endorsed. It was Harris who did that. And all of a sudden she's talking about kicking fucking doors down and stuff. Give me a break. I mean, really, it's so inauthentic and it's real bullshit. And again, I'm going to just say this over and over because it matters. To any minority voter, young voter out there, the party for you is us. You know why? Because nobody gives a shit about that. We really just want to see you succeed. Your kids get a good education, get some access to some decent quality health care, get a job, get your kids into good schools, and that's it. And we want to stay the hell out of your life. These idiots, they're full of crap. They're selling you a basket of bullshit, and they've been doing it for 60 years, and now the masks come off. And I love to see it. It's one of the greatest things I've seen is everybody waking up that party's full of crap. I'm not telling you the Republicans are the answer to all your problems. They're not. They've screwed us over too. I'm just telling you, the cause of your problems are without a doubt the freaking Democrats. And you can look it up. Everywhere something sucks, Democrats are in charge. Go look at it.
Okay, now speaking of Michelle Obama, any thoughts on whether there could be a switcheroo come convention, whether it's at the top of the ticket and the second position that they're going with this horse?
100%. Listen, I took so much flack for this. I was in that White House for a long time. I was not on the First Lady's detail. I was on the president's detail, and I was in the transportation section where we did the motorcade security and logistics and stuff. That's a separate satellite. However, they're together, and we're together a lot, Barack and Michelle. She was around, and obviously we're at the White House. She's around all the time. And the FLD guys, First Lady's detail guys, I'm very good. I'm still very close with a lot of them who were on that detail. She is 100% not running. I'm telling you, she's not running. Every time I say this, someone comes back like there's some grand plan. You don't understand. This woman is extremely private. She hates politics. She always hated politics. All she talks about is hating politics. She hated the White House. She hated being around the White House. She hated congressmen, senators. They hated it. She wants nothing to do with this. There is zero chance she's running. I've said this for 3 years. People always beat me up. She is not running. There is no chance. She hated politics so much. I remember one story. It's already happened, so it's not like any kind of security thing, but one of the guys I know on the detail was a good friend. And I remember saying, where were you last night? I didn't see you guys or something. And he's like, man, we had to take the First Lady out. And I was like, out where? It's like, she hates the White House so much. They apparently like dressed her up with a baseball hat and glasses and a scarf. It's a true story. And she wanted to go to like Walmart or Target or something. And nobody recognized her, not a single person. They took her out in one of our undercover cars. The guys dressed down and everything like that. And she just wanted to go out and be normal. That story happened. I'm telling you it happened. I remember it like it was yesterday. That's how much she hated this place. There is zero chance she would run. And even if they forced her into it, it would be one of those LBJ moments. If nominated, I will not accept. There is no way she is running for president. Zero chance.
She doesn't want anything to do with it. All right, I got to get your take on something that's been bugging me, and I wondered where Dan Bongino stands on it. The TikTok proposed ban. It's not a ban yet, but it could turn into a ban if they don't find new ownership not connected to the Chinese. This has really divided the country and even the Republican Party. Ask a different, right-leaning person, and you'll get a different answer. So I wondered where you stood on it.
Yeah, I don't support it. Now, it's already been signed, so they've got 9 months to basically find a new owner, or they're not going to be banned, but they'll be banned from the app stores, which my experience dealing with my investments in the tech space, Rumble and Parler before they attacked us, you're out of the app store, you don't exist. So it doesn't really matter if you're an app or not. So it's kind of a de facto ban, and I think people have been a little bit disingenuous about that on both sides of the aisle, and we should be honest with people and not bullshit them. Having said that, you're a lawyer. Let's just stipulate a few points. Yes, TikTok is connected in some way, shape, or form to the Chinese Communist Party. Yes, that could mean that malicious actors could be using your data. Okay? Having said that, there's almost no one in America that doesn't know that. And yet people still choose to get on the app. Now, I go on the app. I got to tell you, I find the app, if you want it to, there's a For You page. I find the app to be very informative. I use it on a separate phone because of obvious security situations, but I like stuff about Roman history. I like to watch this history guy. He's a chunky guy with glasses. I forget his name, but I watch videos by this guy all the time. I like baseball card reviews from the 80s. I get tons of them. It's a great app. I don't support it. Now, if you don't want the app, then don't use the app. Like Mom, I don't let my kids, or my youngest, my oldest is an adult, but I don't let her use TikTok. I just don't, because I understand that there's a lot of malicious content. But I just don't want to be a fraud, and I'd be registered as a Democrat. I'm a hefty owner in Rumble, and I own a chunk of Rumble not because I wanted to get rich. I mean, I'm a capitalist. I like money. I'm not stupid, but that's not why I did it. I got involved in Rumble because YouTube was screwing people over. YouTube banned me. Genuinely banned me because I'm not making this up, because I told people masks don't work. That's why they banned me. They can claim all they want. It was about us. And so I said, all right, you know what? I'm giving you matter of fact, I'm not even giving. Here, watch. Someone sent me this. I'm giving you the triple barrel middle finger. This is what I did to YouTube. Not just someone sent me this because they knew I was running out of hand. So I said, I'm going to go and I'm going to, and now with Rumble, it's funny. Rumble just started doing these view aggregators, and we have only 1,000 videos on Rumble. I have 212 million views. That's the greatest FU to YouTube of all time. So I believe in free speech. You don't like an app, don't use it. But, TikTok, they had an opportunity to fix it, and they didn't. And I don't support it, but they really should have been smarter business-wise, because the company's worth, $50 to $100 billion, depending on if they sell the algorithm or not. And full disclosure, Rumble has a more than credible offer to be part of it. So I don't want people to think I'm leaving that out.
Good to know.
So, but that's public knowledge.
Right, so
we put that out there already.
Last question as we wrap it up. Predictions on the next, 6 months at this point? What are we in for? And then how does it land in November?
Well, listen, predictions wise, we say predictions are, like holes, right? Everybody's got one. But I'm not the Stygian witches from, give me the eye. Remember from Clash of the Titans, they could always look through the eye. However, there could be a black swan event. I always kind of worry about that. But here's the thing. Black swans in the past, say it was a Donald Trump presidency. What was the black swan? It was obviously COVID. Donald Trump's economy was coasting fine. That black swan obviously hurt. I mean, I don't believe he lost. People are entitled to their own opinions. That's fine. I don't really care what people think. I'm entitled to mine. I have reasons for thinking that, right? Here's the thing about a black swan this time around. Joe Biden has shown such an inability to lead that if there were to be a pandemic, God forbid, any of these things, a terror attack, or say a massive crash in the economy, all universally bad things nobody wants. The thing about the black swan is it only exacerbates his bad situation because, as we've seen, Megyn, the guy has no capability to deal with anything he touches, he destroys. Holman Jenkins had a piece in the Wall Street Journal the other day about how this guy's just snake bitten. Afghanistan, Taiwan, the Middle East, inflation, the border, whatever he touches, he wrecks. So I think Trump could win, upwards of maybe 35 states. That's a lot, but I think he wins. The Senate's a good map for us, but the numbers don't look great. I'm hoping there's a Trump magnetic pull there, and we can pull out a state like Wisconsin or Pennsylvania. And I'll say one third prediction. This one I'm definitely confident about. This one you can take to the bank. If Trump wins, which is likely, but no one should be presumptuous. If he wins, November to January is going to be the most violent portion of American history you've seen in 30 years. You have seen nothing. You think these campus protests with these, kill the Jews lunatics and other people are bad now? Holy shit. You haven't seen anything. These people are going to go crazy. The money flooding into the new resist, whatever you want to call it, movement, batten down the hatches, folks. I'm telling you right now, get ready for it because you ain't seen nothing like you're about to see in November.
My God. Thank you for that, Dan. Thank you. It's
true.
So fun
I wish you
talking
weren't.
to you.
I hope I'm wrong, but I'm not.
I love your analysis and I love the way you speak and think about everything. Thank you so much for coming on.
My favorite show, man. This is the only show I think I've done 3 times, a podcast. I can't
honored.
resist. They said, Megyn Kelly, why don't you come back? I said, you know what? I hate doing podcasts, but for Megyn, of course. And thank you for standing strong against the lunatics, too. Just one last thing, Megyn. When given the chance, the civilized man versus the savage, you will never go wrong erring on the side of the civilized person, the civilized human being. Everybody in the audience gets that. Take that one to the bank, too. It's super important. Everybody knows what I mean.
A class act on top of everything else. Dan Bongino, always a pleasure. Thank you. And thanks to all of you so much for joining me today. Isn't he great? God, I love Dan. And I want to tell you that this Monday, we have a big interview, someone we've never spoken to before, believe it or not, on this show. You know her name. You probably didn't realize that she and I have never done a sit down together, but Riley Gaines joins the show Monday in person. Very much looking forward to that.